Thank you so much, team, for the technical clearance. MP Ridhima Dugar, over to you for initiating the session.
Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, please start. Please start.
Yes, sure. Leadership. It is an action, not a position. It is a journey, not a destination. I, MP Ridhima Dugar, feel extremely honored to welcome you all at the 19th Parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament. The World Teen Parliament is a perfect platform for all the teenagers to embark on a journey of liberty, leadership, oneness, and success. It is a matter of immense pride for all of us to have with us Ms. Anupam Nidhi and Ms. Monika Halan at this event. Ms. Anupam Nidhi is the head of CSR, Hindustan Zinc Limited. She has earned great respect in the society at the cost of her diligence. And on the other hand, we have Ms. Monika Halan. Ms. Monika Halan is an epitome of a great leader. She is the chairperson of Securities and Exchange Board of India, Advisory Committee for IPEF, author, financial educator, and the founder of Dhan Chakra financial education. Well, as it is quoted, that great leaders create more leaders, not followers. I'm sure that your warm words will illuminate the fire in the leaders within us and make us dazzle vividly someday in our future. Hearing your words is what we're all eagerly awaiting, but before that, I would like to invite Mr. Daksh Gaur, the founder of Blub and World Teen Parliament, to address our honorable guests, audience, and the attendees. Thank you. Over to you, Daksh, sir.
Thank you so much, Ridhima, for initiating the 19th Parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament. Before we begin this session, a very warm welcome to all the teen MPs and influencers who have joined this session today from all across the world. The idea behind the World Teen Parliament was pretty simple, that let's give power to the teenagers to change policies, to get all the resources, and most importantly, give them the power to be heard. Because teenage, which has the maximum energy, that's that age of a human being when they have the maximum energy, and that energy is not at all, prejudiced. It's absolutely without prejudice. So what we wanted to do was trying to give it a manifestation and giving it the power to really change the world in a direction where we don't bring in prejudices. The World Teen Parliament aims to instill democratic values and the idea of public trust among teenagers so they understand their role in changing and improving the world. Today, with this 19th parliamentary session, there's one amazing news that we'll also be sharing with you during this parliamentary session. We have two amazing guests with us. This specific parliamentary session is a little bit on the technical end so that the teenagers get to, really understand the nuts and bolts of things and how do they move around in the actual world. So a very warm welcome to both of our guests today. Thank you so much for taking out the timing and being here with us. Let me invite the first guest for today to address the session, and then we'll get into the question answer session after we listen to both of our guests. A very warm welcome to Ms. Anupam Nidhi, the Head of Corporate Social Responsibility for Hindustan Zinc. Anupam ma'am, over to you for your opening address. A very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh, and thank you, Ridhima, for such a wonderful opening of the session, the 19th parliamentary session. As I said, good evening, everyone, once again. It's an honor to be part of you, the bundle of joys as well as energy as I see. I can see smiling faces around. I can see everybody looking at the cameras and getting themselves already stepped up, seeing whether the hair is fine, the image is fine. But that's what the preparation is all about. And it's lovely to see such young kids around, and probably the future, as I see for myself, and I hope by the time you take on the reins of the policy making or corporate world or the development sector, I would be still around to see the change that you create. Once again, I would like to thank you, Daksh, for inviting me to be part of this journey of yours and all these young minds here. To the coaches, to the influencers who have been supporting the teen parliamentary members here. the agenda that Daksh gave me and so-called the technical topic that Daksh was referring to is something called the corporate social responsibility. I'll try and not make it too technical for you and make it easy for you to understand what corporate social responsibility is. And kind of, I probably will begin with saying something like, as individuals, I'm sure you would have gone ahead and just raise your hands if you have done so of any of these things, whether that's about when you step out of your room or your house, you switch off the lights, or for that matter, you find a stray dog and you go and feed that dog, or for that matter, you find an opportunity to go and plant saplings and you do so, or for that matter, you kind of go and teach some younger kids around or children who are on the streets, offer them some toys, or sometimes go and spend time with some schools, whether those are government schools or otherwise, or for that matter, say no to plastics, don't litter on streets. How many of you have actually done this and many more? So please raise your hands. Okay, I can see the hands raised going up. Yeah, and if you have done all of this, then that's part of your individual responsibility. You as individuals have contributed in one way or the other. For that matter, even for when you have ACs in your room, making sure that AC is not switched on less than temperatures of 24 degrees Celsius. And that way you're conserving the energy. So many ways that you adopt as individuals to contribute to the society, to take care of the society, one, to take care of the environment, and to take care of the social fabric that is around. In similar manner, likewise manner, corporates also have a responsibility. They take in a lot of resources, human beings that come in as a human capital for them, resources that come in from around, or for, which could be water, which could be land, which could be many other formats of that. If you're a mining organization, then you mine minerals around from underground. Likewise, a company also picks up a lot of resources from around, right? So it has to give back to the society, to the larger environment. And there, when you see that's what corporate social responsibility is the corporate's commitment to create a sustainable business model, which could look into not just the social, the environmental, as well as the societal, as I mentioned, and also the economic part of it. But what is another very important piece which has come in over a period of time, which is on the governance part of it, to be compliant, to be ethical, to be aligned with the laws of the land. All of this brings us under these corporate social responsibility. To see, CSR came into being many years back. Organizations like TTK and many others like those started doing their CSR years before the term was coined. CSR came into as an act in 2013 when the government of India, the first of its kind, apart from UK, which probably could not succeed after a couple of years, and rolled it back, but India has been successful thus far. We have completed 10 years after rolling the act, where it said initially it was a voluntary act, but now it is mandatory for certain kind of organizations, companies which are of a certain turnover, certain profit. I would not get into those technicalities, make it as simple. You guys are all Google Babas. You can go back and research on the Google for further more information. But what is important is to understand, like you guys have been working for building the community, the society, and talking about the advocacy part of it, corporates do have that responsibility and they've been working towards it. If I look at last year itself, for financial year 2023, the corporates actually in India invested around 26,000 crores of rupees for social and environmental societal development. How did this whole concept emerge? This concept emerged as India, or if you look at this part of the world, Asia Pacific as well as the South Asian side, there was a commitment to give to the society, whether that was in the form of building schools, temples, or kind of looking at hostels, ashram shalas, and many other formats that they had. But over a period of time, from that particular method of becoming philanthropy, contribution, to now it is more systemic approach to creating a well-meaning of society at large. If you look at what has come to the center is impact. Impact is what is the focus. Sustainability is what is the focus. And I guess whatever you guys are also working towards is to create that kind of an impact around in your social fabric, wherever you can influence and you are able to influence. Sustainability of efforts, I've heard some of you speak about what and how you can bring a change about. And I see a whole lot of you have been in some way or the other touching on sustainability, which means sustenance of the idea that you talked about. It should not start with you or end with you, but it should start with you and go on with many others who can join the bandwagon and make that a huge momentum or a huge movement. And that's exactly what sustenance is, how you can sustain an idea, how you can ensure that it sustains on its own and grows on its own and is not intensive when it comes to resources, whether that's financial or otherwise. I'll quickly share with you how the other pieces also work. I'm so sorry. The other pieces of all of this also works. If you need to look at corporate social responsibility, it has to be looked at in a unison. And that united approach is to look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which talks about 17 goals, which the entire world needs to look at. That can be talking about poverty, that could be that those are 17 goals which talk about life under the sea, on land. It talks about women, or it talks about many other elements, including financial capability, which I'm sure Monika was going to speak more about it today. But apart from that, it also talks about the larger element. When we talk about India, it's about the Indian Development Goals and how those Indian Development Goals needs to be aligned with Sustainable Development Goals. And it then becomes a composite agenda of not just a company as a corporate, but what the government also has a mandate, the civil society, the academicians, the media, and many others, all of them come together and create this whole target-based approach where they focus on relationships, they focus on information, and they focus on impact. And when I say relationship, it's about moving from a relationship which is more contained to moving to a proactive engagement with the stakeholders, whether that are communities, whether those are people like you and me, whether those are your customers, and many other those elements. Information, it is more on looking just as being visible or moving to transparency or inclusion now as it is. And of course, impact, as I mentioned, what was initially in terms of how much money I'm spending as a company to growth, in terms of does it bring in growth around, or as I mentioned earlier, sustainability or creating sustainable models. And that's where the corporate social responsibility led by a united effort of not just the corporate, but many other entities, as I mentioned, the media, academia, civil society, government, they're all moving together, uniting. Daksh, I can keep adding to it, but I guess I'll halt myself here and then I will be happy to answer questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anupam ma'am, for enlightening all the teenagers on what exactly CSR and how has it typically, bloomed across the world, and how has India led that, complete enactment in a way, and right now creating an example for the world, which a lot of countries have not been able to do. But essentially understanding the idea that even a corporate who builds out of the resources that come from the society has to build a sense of empathy as an institution and give back to the community from which it has actually risen from. So it's typically playing the role of a phoenix, that you have to raise from your own ashes, give back to those ashes, and keep that circle of life going on. Thank you so much, Anupam ma'am. Let me invite the second speaker for today at the 19th Parliamentary session. Thank you so much, Anupam ma'am, for giving this very precise and very concise introduction to CSR to all the teen MPs and influencers at the World Teen Parliament. A very warm welcome to the second guest for today. A very warm welcome, Ms. Monika Halan, the Chairperson of the Securities and Exchanges Board of India Advisory Committee for IPEF. She's an accomplished author and somebody who has very deep knowledge into finances and financial education. A very warm welcome, ma'am. Over to you for addressing the 19th Parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament.
Thank you, Daksh. Thank you very much. I am indeed honored to address this elite gathering of the 19th session of the World Teen Parliament. And I greet all the teen MPs, their proud parents, their teachers, and students from across the world. It is indeed an honor to be a part of this parliamentary session. I understand that the process is very competitive, And all of you have shown great leadership skills to be one of those elected for this very prestigious role. The topic given to me is to articulate my expectations of you as leaders. Somewhere I think our generation puts the burden of expectation on very young shoulders, and we say the world will be what you make of it. The future of the world depends on you. I think there is a step before that. And let me tell you what I mean with that. So if we think about it, the greatest of the great leaders have had great big challenges in their personal lives, haven't they? We can think of whether it was Sri Ram or Gautam Buddha or even Mahatma Gandhi. Their personal lives were very difficult. So as leaders, you will have to make a difference between being a great leader and going towards sainthood. I would imagine most of you will want to stay with the great leader tag, right? I'm correct with that? When you want to stay a great leader, okay, look, when we talk of somebody like Mahatma Gandhi or Gautam Buddha, the way that they look at the world and themselves is very, very different. I'm saying let's first understand what it means to be a great leader before we have those higher thoughts, right? So you need to have very organized personal lives. I'm going to flip this topic and say that rather than me telling you I expect you to be good and I expect you to do the right thing and expect you to solve all the problems that my generation has created, right? It's an unfair expectation that my generation and people before us create the problems and then we tell the children, oh, now you solve them, isn't it? I'm going to flip this and say that you yourself need to be in a position to lead before you help others. So this is about also self-empowerment. And a key part of that is to have your personal finances in order. And I say this with a lot of experience about talking about money. Money, I understand, is a very difficult topic to discuss within households, within schools. I think within friends you do discuss, but it does become a difficult topic. But we must discuss money because money can be a great enabler, isn't it? It can also be a great obstacle. Money can be the root of all evil, and money can be the root of all good. I believe that it is how you earn money and what you do with it that matters the most. Okay, how you earn it? Are you earning it through means which may be illegal, which may harm others? Or are you earning it in a manner which makes everybody better off? Right? And then what do you do with that money? Are you going to spend it all on yourself? Look, these are choices that only you can make. There is no moral code here. I'm not giving you a moral code. I'm saying you decide what you think is the right thing to do. So how you earn it and what you do with it is what matters in this space of you becoming empowered with this money literacy, with this financial literacy. You have to understand the difference of what money can do and what it is. And money is what you do with it. It really has no color. It has nothing. In itself, it's inert. We give it attributes. We make it good or bad. I am saying by ignoring it, we leave it in the hands of evil. When great leaders like yourself own it, decide that you will control it, you will use it to great power and great good. So remember that when we decide to ignore money, we are letting go of this great force, this power, and it possibly goes into hands which do a great deal of damage. So it is our responsibility to empower ourselves with this force. These are the basic lessons I want you to learn first for yourself. And these are the lessons. Why? Because these lessons of financial education, our global education system omits. We don't have this conversation at home about it. I would expect you not just yourself to become financially literate, but also create financially literate citizens of the world. And we must all put on our money oxygen mask first before we help others. By that, I don't mean that you appropriate money only for yourself. I'm saying money gives you a certain stability in life. It allows you to go beyond your daily needs, your daily thought or monthly thought of what happens next month, what happens later. Money as an enabler can enable you to do great things. So do not underestimate the power that money has. All of us went through the Delta phase or different phases in different countries of COVID. We did need money that time, didn't we, to get a hospital bed, to get an oxygen tank. It gets you a degree in a university of choice. It allows you to buy things that your parents might not have had because they spend so much on your education, the joy that it gives. It helps you to maybe take care of people who don't have that opportunity. So money can be a great enabler. Again, I'm saying you need to be in a position to help others. And for that, your own life has to be in a great, good groove. Remember that we are entering an era of change driven by the use of very intelligent technology. And it'll be even more important for us to understand what makes us human. What differentiates us from machines? We have, and the machines can, think better, analyze better, deliver better than us. So our basic humanness also is something that we need to examine. And my expectation from you will go beyond money and say, you have to also think what makes you human. What are the qualities first within yourself that qualify you to be a human being? We have the privilege of being at the top of the evolutionary chain. But what is it that makes us human? I would expect you to think deep thoughts about that. As we face the challenges of this new age, I would want you, my expectation would be that you are in a position of control and order so that others look up to you for direction and leadership. I expect you to spread the message of financial literacy across the world. A financially stable household is much better able to deal with the vagaries of life. And as I end this short talk, and I'm hoping to hear a lot more from you with your questions soon, there are 3 basic lessons that I will leave you with in the space of financial literacy. The first is very important. Find out what you need and what you greed. What do I mean by that? There are things that we need, like comforts, necessities, that we need to live our everyday life. And there are things that we greed, which means things that you need because of peer pressure, because you must have something new, because it is out there. So draw a distinction between what you need. When you need something and it is of value to you, go out and get the best. If it is just an additional pair of shoes, an additional watch, a new gadget just because it's there, that's moving into the territory of greed. And remember, only you can decide what is a need and what is a greed. So be very honest with yourself. This is a magic mantra for the rest of your life. If you have the maturity to decide, distinguish between need and greed, you are already setting out on a very firm foundation. Second, you have to save 20% of your income every month. You're very young, but just remember it as you start earning. Our schools don't teach us this. And you are unprepared. When the first salary check comes, you have no idea what to do with it. So somewhere write it down into a future calendar date. Several years later, put a marker in your calendars to say that this old lady had come and she said, save 20% of your money as you start earning every month. And third, most importantly, just stay out of debt. It is destructive. It drives people to do bad things. It takes the ultimate sacrifice from people. Stay out of debt. Certain debts can build assets. Like, for example, people take a home loan. That's a very different story than taking a loan for a vacation, for a gadget. Differentiate. If you got rule number 1, then you'll know you'll stay out of rule number 3, right? You'll stay out of debt. And remember, your generation will live till 100. It's not just a blessing, but it's also medical science. So you really need to make your money work for you. So you take charge of yourself and you teach others as well. I'm handing it back to Daksh.
Thank you so much, Monika ji. Difference between need and greed, how much of your money that you make you should save. And most essentially, money is something which would typically find its own character by the person who is beholding that money. It in itself is inert. It has a lot of inertia. It won't move on its own. It's only and only good enough based on your perception of it. And most essentially, who is holding that perception? Because money is basically a big perception, a big belief that we all have that a piece of paper has a certain value. So how do you perceive money is more important than the money itself. Thank you so much, Monika, ma'am, for sharing such insights with our teenagers today. Now, before we go into the question answer session, there is one specific question that I want to put to Anupam, ma'am, so that these teenagers could get a little more context towards CSR. If you could, tell them any CSR project that you as an organization is doing specifically for teenagers, and are teenagers involved in its decision making? And if they are involved, to what extent?
Lovely. And I'm sorry, my apologies. I did not share with you in terms of what all could be done within CSR. Yes, to answer your question first, Daksh, as part of Hindustan Zinc, CSR, the company that I work for in a state called Rajasthan in India, which is on the western side of the borders, we do work with kids. And to let you know that 30% of our investment, and we call it investment because it's about investing for the future. And many bright minds like you, who probably are from the have-nots, from the rural area that we work for. And that starts from a kindergarten, which we call the Anganwadis here in India, to probably going to the government schools and working with them, and also for graduate and postgraduate program. But one program that I specifically want to bring in, because that gave me a rider on whether the students have a right to decide on that and what is the role that they play. And that's about a program called Uchi Uran. And like the name says so, it's about the aspirations that you can build on. And it's talking about without resources, without those challenges, you just need to feel free and to think big and think fast and think ahead. And for that, we invite children from our districts of Rajasthan as well as Uttarakhand to come in and present their aspirations. And if their aspirations are to look at going for higher education, and especially girls, with their aspirations to go for higher education in colleges, stepping out from their homes and going for colleges, or for that matter, picking up engineering as a subject, we bring them on and we keep them with ourselves from 9th grade onwards to 12th grade, and we send them to schools, prepare them for engineering formats, and of the 400 plus children which have gone through this particular curriculum, we have seen children going to IITs as well as also with other government engineering colleges. My first batch is graduating this year, rather they have graduated this year, which means they've done their engineering and they have come out from the engineering colleges, and they are mining engineers, they're chemical engineers, they're mechanical engineers, and they've joined the best of the companies. So what I would like to say here is they define their own terms, they define their own journey, they define their own graph. And I think resources followed them, people followed them and made their dreams into reality. So likewise, there are many other initiatives that you can take under CSR, whether that's about enhancing the local economy of the area through various initiatives like livelihood, women empowerment, or for that matter, skill building, which is the most important piece that I see as going forward is not about what degrees that you carry, but the skills that you gain over a period of time and what will nurture you and your future. And how are you ready with those skill sets which the future requires you to be. And this doesn't mean to have a technical degree or a technical training, but it's also about skills of being, as you rightly said, that being empathetic. Also, apart from empathy, also looking at how you are going to be in tune with yourself, and that's very important. And I'll speak a bit more about it a little later, Daksh, when you allow me to. So there are many other pieces which are access to healthcare, access to education, basically looking at how you can build the improve the living conditions and talk about access to various basic rights that you have, whether that's, as I mentioned, education, water, sanitation, transportation, commuting, all those things, environment, safety. All of those can become part of CSR. Daksh, I hope I've answered the question that you asked me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anupam ma'am. Let's now get into the question answer session. The first question comes from MP Fakiha Tasneem. Fakiha, over to you. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fakiha Tasneem. I'm from Hyderabad, India. My question is to Monika ma'am. Ma'am, can you provide us insight into your journey of developing a passion for literature and writing, considering your accomplishments as a published author of 2 successful books?
What a lovely question. So writing has been my profession. I joined as a business journalist in 1991, way before you guys were born. And so a little bit is, I've always enjoyed writing, but mostly I learned to write because of the rigor of having to work in a newsroom and having to write stories day in and day out, for the magazine, for newspapers. The key message that I want to give you in successful writing is to think only about your reader. I owe my success to this one philosophy that I need to make it easy for my reader to understand what I'm writing. So my first book, Let's Talk Money, it's a book of finance. But the feedback from everybody has been that we did not even realize we were reading finance. You have made it so simple. You have made it so easy. You have given us stories, analogies, jokes. You have made it so accessible. So think of your reader, make it easy for him or her to understand what you're saying. That is the golden mantra of writing. That your reader, like all through my career as a journalist, as an editor, I used to say, I have no boss other than my reader, and I will only serve her and him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
The next question comes from MP Vandita Bhardwaj. Vandita, over to you.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Vandita Bhardwaj, an MP at the 19th Parliament. I'm a grade 12 student in Chinmay Vidyalaya, Basant Vihar, New Delhi, India. My question is to Ms. Anupam Nidhi. Ma'am, I wanted to ask, what is the most basic concept of CSR, something on which the entire concept is based?
It's a very beautiful question, and I love the painting on your wall behind you. It's abstract, right? The one that you have painted behind. So the mantra for CSR or social development is also very abstract. It's an emerging element. It's how you want to see it. It's a lens that you would like to see. But yes, at the core of that is 2 things. One is the need. To understand the need of the people that you want to work with, or a problem statement or a solution that you want to find, the need part of it. And the second one is impact. And between this, the world is your horizon. So what you would like to make out of it in terms of the impact that you want to create basis the need that you have identified is what the whole abstract element is. And Vandita, I'm glad that you asked that question. And I'm looking forward to you creating your own canvas and you making your own paintings around that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm actually a painter.
See, I got that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question comes from MP Manas Rana. Manas, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So good evening, everyone. And my question goes for Miss Monika Halan, and it's like, ma'am, since you are a part of the advisory committee for the IPEF, I wanted to ask you, what are some actual benefits of IPEF for South Asian countries like India and Nepal?
So SEBI is the capital market regulator. So we all know capital markets where there are stock exchanges, there are mutual funds, there is the bond market. And there has to be a regulator to oversee that the market functions in a fair manner. So Securities and Exchange Board of India is the market regulator. The market regulator functions, it has its own staff. And what it does is it constitutes different committees. There are about 15 or 20 such committees who look into different aspects of markets. So there is a derivatives committee, there is a mutual fund committee. At the moment, I am chairperson of the Investor Protection and Education Fund Committee. It is a fund into which flow some of the fines, some of the unclaimed money, some of the money that sits with SEBI, which comes either which is not claimed or which is paid as a fee or a fine, that sits in the Investor Protection and Education Fund. And this fund is to be used. One is some part of the money goes back to investors, whoever they identify, it goes back to them. A part of the fund is meant for activities which promote investor protection and for investor education. And in that space, SEBI has done a lot of work in terms of holding seminars, workshops, training a lot of the trainers. And now if you go to the SEBI website /investors, you will see a whole lot of calculators, which are useful for people not really your age, but people who are beginning to earn, that they calculate their net worth, their present value, their future value, impact of 1 year delay in starting your savings. So the committee's mandate is to drive the functioning of this fund so that it benefits people. I think it's specific to India and not so much Nepal. Nepal probably will have its own regulator. The functioning of this committee is restricted to India, but there would be similar bodies in each of the countries which are represented here.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next question comes from MP Paulina Thomas. Paulina, over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paulina. I'm in my 10th grade at school. I'm an MP and I come from Spain. My question is for Ms. Monika Halan. I have been seeing your trajectory a bit, and how do you think we teenagers could start helping retail? Thank you.
Just say the question again, Paulina. How could you start helping with what? You're on mute. You're on mute, Paulina. You're on mute. Yeah.
Oh,
say that.
yeah, now, sorry.
Yeah.
How do you think we teenagers could start helping retail? Thank you.
Helping retail investors.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you can start helping retail investors. First is to educate yourselves. I don't think personal finance is so well taught. I don't know about Spain, but certainly I know about India. It is not a subject which is taught in schools. The basics are really not communicated. So before you can help anybody, my suggestion would be to empower yourselves with basic knowledge about what is a stock market, what is a bank, how does the economy function. So basic economics and basic finance, I think, is a must for every citizen of the world so that they can take better decisions for themselves. A lot of companies, especially in the financial sector, will try and make it very complex and try and swindle you out of your money. And this is a global phenomena, not restricted to any one country. The better you empower yourself to deal with such people, the more protection it is there for your money. And once you have reached a certain level of understanding, then you can definitely help the others. At a certain higher level, it is important that we think about, if you go ahead, you become a regulator, you become a policy maker, you join public policy. It's extremely important that we hardcode consumer protection into the structure of financial products. What I mean by that is that when you use a toaster, right, you toast bread, we know that it doesn't catch fire. Why doesn't it catch fire? Because there's a safety standard which every toaster has to pass through in every country. I'm saying the financial products need to pass through certain hoops before they are allowed to be sold to investors. So you hard coding financial protection into this invisible product called a mutual fund, this invisible product called insurance. See, you can see a car, you can eat a bread, but you can never see a mutual fund, you can never see an insurance policy, which is why for any of you who go into public policy and in finance, that is the space that we need a lot of work on. An excellent question.
Thank you very much.
The next question comes from influencer Safa Sultana. Safa, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I am Safa and I am from Administrative School, Hyderabad. And my question goes to Anupam Nidhi, ma'am. What are some of the most innovative and effective solutions you have seen or implemented in your work to create a positive change or impact in communities?
Beautiful question, Safa. As the name suggests, it's about the purity, is that what it means, Safa? What does the name mean? Purity, right? Again, as in I would come back and say, is the intention to enable the communities that you work for or the beneficiaries that you work for, Safa. And when I say so, it's about giving them the reins rather than just be the providers. It's about becoming enablers for them and helping them, as you probably would have heard about this whole quote, helping them not by giving fish, but then making them to learn to fish, right? So similar manner, one, creating platforms which could help as enabling platforms. Two, creating ownership within those beneficiary groups, making institutions on grassroots level, on ground, as the primarily that being the main, if I may say, the building block of whatever you do. So, Safa, it's about what your vision is and how pure your vision is to strengthen the communities or the beneficiaries by making them the owners of their own, if I may say, their future or their destiny, and enabling them in your own ways by aiding them through technology, through financials or resources, through as we say, through stability. If we are able to bring all these things together, I'm sure, and with bringing in the leadership element, I'm sure what you ask for will happen. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Safa. Thank you.
The next question comes from MP Bhavya Sakhuja. Bhavya, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. I am Bhavya Sakhuja, studying in 9th grade of the RN International School, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh, India. My question is for Ms. Monika Halan, ma'am. Ma'am, what are some practical steps or habits that teenagers can start developing now to build a strong financial foundation for their future?
Bhavya, it's a good question. It's a little early in the day for very aggressive financial planning or dealing with a lot of money. But I'm sure you would be getting some gifts which are money. There will be some pocket money that some of you might be getting. It's a good idea to see how you spend that money. So observing yourself, what is it that you're spending on? How often are you asking your parents for things, and how often are you being able to save for things on your own? So what you need to remember is that to inculcate a saving habit is the most important thing. And the earlier you begin, the faster you begin. Even small amounts of money, it doesn't matter. If you've got 100 and you're able to save only 5, it is fine, because at least you're doing that much. So at this age and stage, I will say, just inculcate the habit of saving. And I'm saying something very seriously, don't oversave. This is also your time to enjoy. But the habit of saving, however small, 10 rupees out of 100, 15 rupees out of 100, 20, whatever you can do, please do. So both enjoy today, but put a little bit aside for the future, and get into that habit of saving. Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
The next question comes from influencer Mehveen. Mehveen, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. My question goes to Ms. Monika Halan. Good evening, ma'am. I wanted to ask that you've wrote a book, Let's Talk Money, right? And I've seen some interviews as well. So I was very interested in the topic of financial literacy, and I've been trying to know more about it. But there's this rule of 72 that I've been having some problems with understanding. Can you make me understand what it is?
What is the rule of 72 you want to know?
Yeah, I have actually learned that it is about the estimated amount of time that it gets double. The money that if you invested will get double, but I can't seem to understand what it actually means. So can you help me with it?
So it is just that, you use these rules of thumb. So more than this 72, I want you to understand that in finance, what we do is we use some things called this rule of thumb, right? So sometimes you use shortcuts like this rule of 72, that, how long does it take your money to double? And then you try and use these rules of thumb to understand that. So my suggestion is don't go too deep into the technical parts of this subject right now. Try and learn the broader aspects, because if you start thinking very deeply of these technical parts, you will get very confused. So stay really with the big picture. I know I'm not answering your question directly and deliberately so. You must understand the big building blocks before you get specifically into things like, I will double my money in 5 years if the interest rate is so much, if I multiply and I divide. So it becomes like a technical maths class. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
The next question comes from MP Ishanvi Acharya, but I think Ishanvi's question is something where we would need both the speakers to answer this. Ishanvi has actually directed the question to Monika ma'am, but I think here we would also want the opinion of Anupam ma'am to come in. Ishanvi, over to you for the question. I think Ishanvi is facing some internet issue. Ishanvi,
yes, sir.
you can ask your question, please.
Ishanvi, can switch off the
Good
video
evening.
for some time.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Good evening to everybody present here. I am Ishanvi Acharya from Nepal, and I would like to give this question to both of the speakers today. How can the local level government give financial security to entrepreneurs in the present society?
I think there was a lot of disturbance in the question. I'll repeat the question. The question that Ishanvi is asking is that how can we develop the environment where the specific local governments, make policies or make legislation which provides financial security to all the entrepreneurs within that community. So we will request both those.
Yeah, I'll answer it very briefly, and I'll leave it for Anupam. Is that by its very nature, entrepreneurship has no guarantees. You cannot ask for any financial security when you set out to be an entrepreneur. You have great financial security, the regularity of your income when you go for a salary job. So it is very romantic to think of becoming an entrepreneur, but believe me, it is not that easy. Many times the security of a regular income is far greater than the adventure of enterprise, which is not to say that don't start enterprises, but don't go into enterprise thinking that the government needs to ensure that your enterprise does well. You are entering a risky space. You are taking the risk of the business failing or doing well. Then what the government can do is ease up the policies that prevent entrepreneurs from doing well. There are compliances, there is rent seeking by bureaucracy. They can ease up on that. But in terms of guarantees, I don't think any government will provide.
Well said, Monika. I will.
Thank you, ma'am. I think I have a follow-up question. No, I don't mean to say if the business failed. I mean to say if any calamity or any social problem harms the service given, how can the government level help them?
I think what Ishanvi is trying to say is that if that entrepreneur falls into something which is beyond his or her control, that can you provide medical security to him? Can you provide some sort of an insurance to him so that he's able to pursue entrepreneurship, but is at least eased out on, exigencies and emergencies that he might have to face? So anyone from you can answer.
I think, Anupam, you take that.
Sure, I shall. Ishanvi, I'll answer your question, but I just want to twist it a bit. You talked about entrepreneurs. I'm talking about MSMEs who can be the better entrepreneurs than the enterprises which are small, medium, and they are all over the place. If you really look at any country for that matter, not just India, but even the Scandinavian countries and anywhere else that you would like to point your finger at, the entire economy, if you look at, while yes, the revenues are earned major share with the larger corporates, but then the major investments as well as the major workforce and the major work that happens is with the MSMEs, which are these enterprises, smaller enterprises or medium enterprises. And that's where the larger focus has to be. And Ishanvi, I would rather say it's on to everybody, not just the government, but it's on to everyone. And it's about partnership and collaboration. The goal 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which talks about that there's a need to create an ecosystem, a fallback kind of a mechanism for such organizations. And if you're talking about the Industry 4.0 element, then it has to be the corporates, it has to be the government, it has to be the larger machinery. It cannot be left with the government alone. It cannot be left with just the advocacy. It has to be across the bed. For that matter, insurance companies coming in with those kind of security systems for them. Educational institutions coming in with programs which go beyond taking them to a technical institute, to doing a bachelor's in vocational education, to a PhD in vocational education. It's about an intrinsic pipeline that needs to be built up with a whole lot of mechanism, not just the financial element alone. It's about the thought and the intent by which we probably would be able to answer your question and probably foresee some of those challenges, as you rightly said. How do you create that kind of a cushion space for such enterprises which are very small and may get hit back with, even for that matter, 2,000 rupees being rolled out from the economy or whatever that may be. It could be as small or as big, or probably a huge rain shower, as it is happening right now in India across, and the business coming to a standstill or completely getting dysfunctional. How do you look at all of those things? I think there has to be a lot of thought process which has to go beyond just the financial stability alone. Ishani, I know I have not probably asked on the answered on the financial side of it, but I just want to bring to you the challenges which are much bigger, which needs a collective effort and not just a standalone entity that is the government working on that.
I think that's a very good. I think that's a very good conclusion to the session, because now we are nearly at the conclusion of it. And I think all the teen MPs and influencers must understand, because for complex problems like this, because it brings the complete session into context. For complex problems like this, when you need policy changes, you need political will, and that is the purpose of a parliament. So this is what you as individuals, you as an institution coming together, this is what you have to realize, that where the teen parliament can bring these expertise from different people, and can you prepare the right kind of political will? Can you prepare the right kind of public opinion so that you're able to create a real policy change that benefits the world even beyond your own lifespan? So thank you so much to both of our guests for taking out the time for this session today. But before we conclude the session, I would request you to please give a one-liner to all the teenagers who are listening to this session and who might listen to this in the future, that any one line that they should take away from this and remember your advice as a teenager that they must follow for far more successful and far more flourishing life? Over to Monika ma'am and then to Anupam ma'am for a quick one-liner to conclude the session.
Money is your friend. It's going to be with you till your last breath. So learn to control it.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
From me, it would be 5 C's. The first, and it's not a sentence alone, where probably it has the bullet points underneath. First is clarity of thought, right? Clarity. Second is contentment, right? Third is the calmness or the uncluttered mind. Fourth is the compassion or the love or acceptance towards self and others around you. And fifth, which is most important, is courage. Courage to face the challenges, what's happening with you as well as beyond you. Wishing all the very best. And with that whole tag that you have, MP, I think with that power comes great responsibilities. And we are there to share your responsibilities and not by yourself. Wish you all the very best. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Anupam ma'am. Thank you so much, Monika ma'am, for taking out the time for this 19th Parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament. Before this session comes to an end, a very big thank you to all the teen MPs and influencers for joining us for this session. There's a good news for all the people who want to be a part of the World Teen Parliament. Today is a soft launch or an initiation of the registrations for the third World Teen Parliament. The registrations for the third World Teen Parliament are opening today itself. So if you want to be a part of the World Teen Parliament next year, start creating your videos, start uploading them on our website so that we know that what is the proposal that you're putting forth for the world, and do people really vote for you, and do you have that kind of guts and that kind of public support that you can become an MP at the World Teen Parliament. This year, the current MPs that you see in front of you, these very 100 teenagers secured a total of 418,000 direct votes to become the members of Parliament of the World Teen Parliament. We hope in the next year, we find far more influential, far more intelligent, and most essentially, far more empathetic teenagers to lead the world. This was the 19th Parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. Have an amazing evening and amazing weekend ahead. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.